Thank you for inviting me to speak in this conference and in this session. My name is Dilek Fraisl. I work in the Novel Data Ecosystems for Sustainability Research Group at the International Institute for Applied Systems Analysis, IASA, based in Austria. And today I will talk about a research study that we undertook on the contributions of citizen science data to SDG monitoring as part of the We Observe SDGs and Citizen Science Community of Practice, or the SDG scope in short. So we launched this SDG scope in November 2018, and since then we've been working hard to demonstrate the potential of citizen science for the SDGs. In this slide, you see the co-created objectives of the SDG scope, which are understanding the opportunities and challenges for the use of citizen science data for SDG monitoring, and advancing our knowledge of how citizen science can help behavior change for achieving the SDGs. So we focused our efforts to realize the first objective so far, which translated into the research paper that we published in journal Sustainability Science that I'm going to present to you today. A bit more background, the SDG scope is an open platform that connects citizen science practitioners and researchers, National Statistical Office representatives and government officials, UN and other international agency representatives, and the broader data and statistics communities to share and exchange knowledge and resources and ideas on how to demonstrate the value of citizen science data and impact for the SDGs. So We Observe, very briefly, is a European Commission funded project that aims to mainstream citizen science. If you're interested in exploring and realizing the synergies between citizen science and the SDGs with us, feel free to register by going to the We Observe website, Communities of Practice page. Even though We Observe project is coming to an end now, we have plans to keep it running. About the paper, so our aim here was to present where exactly citizen science data are already contributing and could contribute to the global SDG indicator framework. So this paper actually provides the first and only comprehensive overview that shows which SDG indicators could be supported by which citizen science initiatives. And in our opinion, this was a very much needed work, as now we have the concrete information on whom to talk to and what to do when we want to realize the potential citizen science offers for monitoring the SDGs. To start us off, what are the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs? So the SDGs are a call to action to address the global challenges our world is facing today, from poverty to climate change, in 17 goals and 169 targets. And these global goals were adopted in 2015 with the aim to achieve them by 2030. And but how do we know if we are actually reaching these targets and goals, and where should we put more efforts and resources, and where do we need policy improvements or changes? In order to be able to answer these questions, we need timely, accurate, and comprehensive data. But the traditional sources of data that are currently used for SDG monitoring, and these are censuses or household surveys, for example, have lots of issues around them, such as high cost, infrequent data collection cycles, lack of spatial variations across a country, and their openness and accuracy, and so on. So they are just not capable of producing the data needed for most of the SDGs and targets. As a result, 5 years into the SDG process, 68% of the 93 environmental SDG indicators lack data, according to UNEP, or more than half of the SDG targets are not measurable in the Asia-Pacific region due to lack of data. And even the countries with available data do not have them consistently over time. But we need data not only measure progress to date, but also to make timely decisions to improve people's well-being today and tomorrow. Before I go into our results, I thought it's important to highlight our definition of citizen science that we used in this particular paper. I'm not going into the terminology or definition discussions here, but this is just to say we took an inclusive and all-encompassing approach in this research piece and defined citizen science through 3 main characteristics. These are public participation, voluntary contribution, and knowledge production. So in our definition, we included any initiative that produces scientific knowledge through the participation of volunteers, such as community-based monitoring, participatory action research, citizen-generated data, crowdsourcing, participatory mapping, or participatory sensing, and many more. So this slide now shows the methodology we adopted here. So we looked at the whole SDG indicator framework that included all 244 SDG indicators that time. And this is constantly being updated. The number of indicators might change from time to time. For instance, currently there are 247 SDG indicators. We also looked at the citizen science initiatives at any scale, from global to local, to understand the current landscape of citizen science and if and how all these initiatives could contribute to SDG monitoring. And in this slide, you see our results. Yellow boxes here show the indicators that could benefit from citizen science data, and green boxes show the indicators that citizen science data are already contributing to the monitoring of, and gray means we couldn't identify any alignment between any past or ongoing citizen science initiatives and these indicators. So this is a complicated figure, but it basically shows the 17 SDGs, 169 targets, and 244 indicators, and of course our results. So one of the most important things this figure actually tells us is that even though we see lots of potential for citizen science data, and these are yellow boxes here, this potential is only realized by just a few indicators, and these are highlighted in green. And even then, unfortunately, only by a few countries, for instance. And in more detail, what we also see here is that citizen science is already contributing to the monitoring of 5 SDG indicators and could contribute to 76, which is around 33% of the whole SDG indicator framework. And another important result is that the greatest contribution of citizen science to the SDG indicator framework would be in SDG 15, life on land, SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, SDG 3, good health and well-being, and SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. And this also demonstrates that citizen science data have the greatest potential for input to the environmental SDG indicators. And just as a reminder, 93 environmental indicators in the SDG framework, and 68% of them lack data according to UNEP. And this means citizen science could offer a lot here. And this is just to show the supplementary material that you can download together with the paper, and you can use this to check the indicators that are of particular interest to you, to see if they could be supported by citizen science data, or you can see the citizen science initiatives or your initiatives and which indicators that they could support, and if yes, and how, and yeah, and all the other details such as the project names and their websites, and the evidence on our rationale on why we think these indicators could be supported by these particular citizen science initiatives. So I would like to give a few examples on how these contributions are already happening or could happen. So the first example is the SDG indicator 14.1.1b on marine leader. So UNEP is the custodian agency for this indicator, and they developed a methodology that uses citizen science data as a primary source of information for measuring marine plastics on beaches and shorelines. And what you see here in the photo is a litter intelligence program. It's a large-scale citizen science program led by Sustainable Coastlines in New Zealand. And this initiative has been collaborating with the Ministry for the Environment and Statistics New Zealand, as well as the Department of Conservation, since the design phase of the program in 2016. And the results of this citizen science initiative are included in the official environmental report Marine 2019, produced by the Ministry for the Environment and Statistics New Zealand. And this enabled actually for the first time that marine leader datasets and citizen science data have been included in official New Zealand government reporting. This is actually our project we're leading at IASA, acting on the results of this paper. I wanted to show this now because this is also about marine leader. As part of this Citizen Science for the SDGs project, we partnered up with the Ghana Statistical Service, UNEP, UN, SDSN Trends, Earth Challenge, the Wilson Center, Ocean Conservancy, and many others to use citizen science approaches for Ghana's official SDG reporting for the indicator 14.1.1b on marine leader. And we're actually very excited about this project and the potential it has for other countries and other national statistical offices and governments for their reporting on this particular indicator, and actually maybe other indicators as well. So this project is actually still ongoing, but these are some of the initial results that we have or learnings from the project. For example, this will be the first time in Ghana that citizen science data will contribute to the official statistics and reporting. And also the first time Ghana will report on the indicator 14.1.1b. And this is just to highlight that there wasn't an awareness of the existing data from Ocean Conservancy TIDES database and how these data produced by a civil society organization could be reported officially. And this has generated interest from other CSOs, particularly in Ghana, active in the field of marine leader, in the reuse of their data. And they just started a communication with the government offices and relevant agencies in the country. The other important thing is that the Environmental Protection Agency in Ghana indicated at a multi-stakeholder workshop that once validated by them, because this is one of the processes, the data and results collected by Ocean Conservancy could be integrated into Ghana's Oceans Plan that is currently under development, thus embedding the data into the national strategy of the country to produce policies and action in addition to the official SDG reporting. So I'll continue with another example now. Although an established methodology exists for the indicator 6.3.2, that is the proportion of water bodies with good ambient water quality, the data are not regularly produced because substantial investments in financial and human resources are required for organizing routine data collection activities at high spatial and temporal resolutions. So many of the latest or many of the countries or least developed countries do not collect data on water quality, or they have very limited monitoring programs available. So in this case, citizen science initiatives such as Freshwater Watch could provide meaningful contributions to the monitoring of this indicator. So through Freshwater Watch, citizen scientists collected over 24,000 measurements from more than 2,000 water bodies in 26 countries. And there are many other similar initiatives around the world that could contribute to the monitoring of this particular indicator. And my final example is the City Oasis project for the indicator 11.7.1 on the built-up area of cities that is open space for public use. So measuring how much public space a city has is only one part of measuring whether people are actually benefiting from it, according to the metadata of this indicator. So this is where citizen science approaches could be used to complement remote sensing data, as it could help collect additional information on the perception of these open public spaces. So by the way, the satellite imagery is the data source suggested in the methodology, official methodology of this indicator. And City Oasis aims to improve the database of open urban spaces and their use in Vienna initially. And the app looks like on this slide, which is currently in German. And the users could add new spaces to the app, upload photos, rate an open space, and answer questions of on how safe they felt, or they find this public space, and whether it was clean, and many other and any other questions they could answer actually. And this is a project in partnership between IASA, University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences Vienna, and City of Vienna. So City of Vienna plans to use the results of this project to improve its database in open public spaces and identify people's perceptions on these spaces. So I think I'm slowly coming to the end. This is just to say, as part of this research, we also look at the patterns of which indicators could be more amenable to citizen science approaches. And we saw that, as I mentioned before, environmental SDG indicators could benefit from or the indicators that could benefit from observations such as bird and biodiversity monitoring or monitoring of land use, land cover changes, or the indicators or areas that citizen science could make meaningful contributions to, and indicators that could be supported by spatial data, monitoring of water quality, air quality, disease threats, post-disaster damage assessment, or open spaces in cities are some of the other examples. And indicators that could be supplemented through self-reporting, such as sexual violence or perception of safety, or other fields that are more amenable to citizen science approaches. So in short, indicators measuring issues that raise a concern among citizens and communities are more amenable to citizen science. And the reason for this may be these issues affect their health and quality of life. This is just to say we're not proposing a way to replace the official sources of data, but instead we're proposing a way to complement them. For example, in societies where people who face harassment are blamed in some way, may be reluctant to report through official channels on the violence they face. In these cases, citizen science efforts offer a tremendous contribution to complement official statistics. Additionally, these initiatives probably need some modification and improvement in their methodologies for their results to be used for SDG monitoring. And this is something that we need to keep in mind. And another thing that is important to keep in mind is that no data source is perfect. They all have limitations and advantages. So our idea should be, if we want to monitor our progress towards the SDGs, and if we want to achieve them by the year 2030, we need to harness the potential of new data sources, such as citizen science. And we all know that COVID-19 resulted in an additional setback to the country's ability to collect timely data and produce statistics for monitoring the SDGs. But it also taught everyone that we need more and timely data to take action and make timely decisions in times of crisis. So finally, citizen science data have the potential to support SDG monitorings, that's correct, but it also has the potential to mobilize action towards achieving the SDGs by raising awareness on them. But how do we do that? So what's the way forward? I'm not going to go into details of this, but these are some of the recommendations from our paper. But I would like to highlight that with the citizen science community, within the citizen science community, actually, we're working towards building awareness and capacities on the use of citizen science for SDG monitoring and creating key partnerships. This is also what we do also with the data and statistics communities in general. Currently, we're working together with UNCTAD, UNEP, UNEP Convention of Biological Diversity, UN Statistics Division, and many others for this particular purpose. And we see in the last year that there's a great interest from the UN agencies and National Statistical Offices for the use of citizen science data for SDG monitoring. This is just to show that we also created a story map for this paper, and you can basically have a look at it using this link on the slide. I would like to thank you all for your time.